Alrighty, so we are going to be jumping into a day in the life of the QA, what that looks like. That is mostly my day job. I feel like I do a very good job on it. I feel like I deliver a lot in other roles as well. Cool thing about my role is that I actually have only been at my company for about 3, 4 years, and during that time, I've been on over 20 to 30 different projects. I have been in a lot of different projects, some great, some horrible, some on the same client, but just different teams within that client, all sorts of stuff. So before we jump into any generic questions and whatnot, let's talk about what exactly you as a developer need to have in order to effectively fix a bug. So, for example, I make a feature, I push it out into the world, it exists, my QA comes back and gives me notes on what was wrong, what I did with it so bad. What does that developer need in order to fix whatever was wrong? Just a general guideline, anything at all, no right or wrong answers, throw them out there.
Well, first he needs to understand what exactly is not working and why it's not working.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're completely right. Like he needs a clear visual of what is actually happening in the bug. Giovanni, what do you think, man? If I were to tell you a bug in the code, like what do you need to know? What's irrelevant? What are your thoughts?
I think you said it pretty well. I would, as let's say as a developer, I would want to know the error messages. I'd want to have screenshots. I'd want to know what is the intention of the feature if I'm not hitting that. Um, yeah, those type of things.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean for me, if I am going into it, I want to see start to end is a really good way to put it. I want to be able to see am I where am I starting and how am I going to get to that end product, which in this case the end product is my bug. So, if I'm not clear in what the end product is, no one's going to be able to fix it because nobody even knows what it is. If I'm not clear about the beginning product, no one's going to be able to no one's even going to know where to start in order to replicate the bug because that's the first thing that dev's going to do is they're going to read your tickets and then they're going to go in to replicate whatever the bug is and see it for themselves, step through the code in it, and a number of other things. They have to have as clear as day image of what the story is. You're telling a story here. I need to know how you got this started. What did the data look like? What page were you on? Did you navigate from another page first? Whatever it is. So for me as a QA, I'm going to make sure that I step through that bug several times to make sure that it's not one thing or another. Because when I first started QA, I didn't do a good job of that. I replicated once, and I'd send it off to them just to save time. But really, I wasted a lot more time sometimes because it wasn't that one thing that happened. It would be something small that I did in the process that I didn't realize that was why, right? Maybe I thought it was because I navigated from a certain page, but really it's because I filled in one of the forms a specific way, or even vice versa. It could be anything. I need to make sure that the bug is being caused by what I think it is. Normally, your role as QA is not going to be, let me dive into the code, let me find exactly in the code where it's breaking, right? Most QA roles, you will be in a role where you're not really, at least for manual testing, you will not be forward facing in the code. You will be like on the front end of the app, interacting with it and seeing what is happening from a user's perspective. Because that is the accumulation of all the business logic, all of the developers work, and every single little bit of what's been planned into that project and that ticket that you were testing right now is going to be tested by you interacting with the app. So, a good example of what I was talking about a minute ago would be if I don't, if I send a friend request on Facebook and that friend request errors out, or let's say I send a friend request and then 24 hours later, my friends list is empty. I would definitely include that ticket. I wouldn't just say my friends list is empty or I added friends, blah, blah, blah. I'd say, hey, I added a friend. 24 hours later, my friends list was immediately deleted and I had no more friends. I added another friend. It happened again. Blah blah blah. I would go through it like that. I would be confident in what the issue is. You can be a really annoying QA. You can be super annoying, such as I'm going to bring up random topics and things of. what doesn't really matter, such as like sometimes QAs are like really, really, really nitpicky, and it's up to you to read the room. For me, I will, on my current ticket, I will see things. I'm very nitpicky as a QA, but it also depends on the team. My previous team, they wanted to know what every single little minute pixel difference was between the Canva that they had created or the Figma and the app itself. There was like a 3 day long argument about whether or not the B in back it should be capitalized. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. In my head, I'm like, dude, like this is not mission critical because there were certain people on the team that were just super, super nitpicky about like this is exactly how it's to go. And then there's some people who just didn't really care, right? Really, at the end of the day, there's only one person who that matters to. It's the client who is paying the bill for this project. And if they're the one that wants it, by golly, you better deliver on that. I always cater how nitpicky and other things I am to the client's expectations, right? Not that I'm giving any less for certain clients if they're not as nitpicky. In fact, for my current client, they're not nearly as nitpicky and they're just like, oh yeah, well, that one's fine or whatever it is. But I will always mark things down as I find them anyways, because sometimes in a professional atmosphere, if some things are not caught or some things are not documented or explained and whatnot, I may end up taking the fall for it. I'm going to throw in a ticket anyways, and I'm going to be like, hey, this is a thing. I was told by X person that this was not an issue. Not that I'm throwing them under the bus, but or just in stand up was told this was not an issue, or the team agreed that this was not an issue. Documenting it here anyways, throwing it in there. My goal as a QA is not to just, oh, let me find every single little thing wrong and just be annoying and like, ha ha ha, like you messed up your code and I found a bug in it. So now I'm just sending you this ticket for you to go fix it for the fourth time. We don't want to do that. We want to make the job of the developer as seamless as possible. I want them to see the bug, grab it, be able to fix it, know exactly what they need to get done and go. I see QA as a very supportive role. There have been other teams where I have not been supportive. I've definitely been leading in some aspects. But overall, your job is a supporting role. How do I ensure that everyone is moving at a good pace, even for my project manager and seeing differences in the code or in the UI or the styling or whatever versus what's actually happening in their Canva or Figma or whatever. Like I'm trying to make sure that I'm meeting everyone's expectations and just giving them to the point instructions of where I need to go. Really and truly, the day to day of QAs, I wake up and I immediately look at the board and I figure out what is in my lane, what has gotten done in the last 24 hours from the developers, so I can dive in. I immediately look at their thing, and I'm going to start with being as broad and basic as possible in my approach. So you're basically going to end up making sure that you start like as broad as possible. How many of you guys heard, Alex? I know for a fact you've heard this, but the happy path. Yeah. Giovanni, what is the happy path?
The path of least resistance. Pretty much getting from point A to point B that pretty much just leads to, what your goal is.
Honestly, the first thing you said was spot on, which was the
Okay.
path. It's usually, I mean, technically yes, but it's really just what is the base use case for this feature? Let's talk about login. I log into an app. The base use case of that is not, oh, I retry the password 17 times and it's still letting me retry. The base use case of that is going to be how do I just log in? I'm just logging in. I put in a username. I go down. I put in a password. I hit enter. Maybe there's a CAPTCHA. That's it. That's all. That is the happy path. That is what most users will walk into. But then we walk into things like the not so happy path, which is where we usually find the most bugs. I would say 9 times out of 10, you're not going to find a bug in the happy path. That's like usually the one thing that most developers will test. Sometimes you'll find different developers test a ton, and sometimes you'll find developers just do that happy path. And I get their ticket and I immediately grin, going, "Okay, it's time to write a novel because I know this dude didn't test his code. Like I can tell even just by looking at the ticket and testing it, without even seeing the person's name on my team. I can tell you exactly who wrote this ticket because how many bugs I found in it and other things." There have been some devs I've worked with and I've been like, holy crap, this is impressive because, it's almost like a game that I'm playing and I'm like, oh, like, okay, like, well, okay, this is working, but like, I wonder if they considered this. Like, I'm wondering, like, oh, like, how smart were you in developing this? Like, how in depth did you really think about this? And I'm going through these different paths and different possibilities with the features that they've implemented, and I'm just trying to break it. I want to see bad, right? I mean, not necessarily want, but that's my job security right there, is that something went bad. So, like, let's take a look at what it looks like to test just a happy path, and then also what it looks like to test a not so happy path. Alrighty. So this is a Go Campfire website. We're just going to use it. This is not a perfect website whatsoever. My very classy stock images that will change in due time. But let's just look at logging in. QA is not just looking for, oh, it exploded. I did my job. High five self. And then you high five yourself and you go home and take a nap. I'm also looking at user experience. The job is somewhat of what you make it. I will see things and go, hey, this is fine, but this is a horrible user experience, and here is why. Or this is very jarring. Jarring is a common word that I use, such as, hey, you guys click this thing, there's no loading, there's no like pop up of like, hey, this is going to take you here. Like it immediately just took me away. And I was like, wait, I wasn't done on that other page. That was very jarring, right? That was out of the blue. That I had no idea that was going to happen. So I load it on the site. I come to log in. My first thing I'm going to do here is try to log in with a successful login, but I can't type my password right because I'm a big old dummy. Cool. That worked. That is the happy path right there. Username, password, login. I would also be checking log out. So now we're veering a little bit off of the happy path. I'm going to log back out, even though the ticket may not have anything to do with logging out. I'm going to log back out, and now I'm going to try and log in again. Why? Because there may be something stored literally anywhere on the front end or back end that could screw up my login 2 times. It worked. That's great. Maybe I come back in and I do it just one more time. I say, okay, cool. This seems to be working just fine. I'm going to log back out. Giovanni, what is another unhappy path that we could, what's another unhappy path that we could take here that would branch out from the norm of how somebody would use this form? Because at the end of this is just a form. It's just very short, but
Yeah. I mean, I was first thing to my mind is trying different types of email addresses in terms of like Yahoo, Gmail, Microsoft, and whatnot, and seeing if those work.
okay.
Uh, Testing out the length of characters. What's the max on your password that you can actually add in?
Sure.
Yeah.
100%. That's a really big one. In fact, I have no idea if I've implemented it here. Let's just add a ton of characters. We're gonna actually, what I do is I'll grab this and I'll copy it and I'll paste and I'll paste and I'll paste and I'll paste. And it looks like there is a limit to it here, but it's really long. So I would end up definitely telling the developer, hey, this is too long. You need to shorten it. Right? Different emails, great idea. My bigger concern here would be let's type in my email, but then go back and say, just put in a wrong password and hit login. Invalid credentials. Now, bit of a weird slash trick question. Is it better to show invalid credentials? Or is it better to say wrong password? What if I have the wrong, let's say I put an extra B in here. What if I have the wrong email? Is it better to put email does not exist? Or is it better just have invalid credentials for all of these and why?
I would say it's better to actually add in email or password because it's
Mhm.
more user friendly. And
You are
it kind of
right that
focuses.
you
Oh,
are completely right. You're completely right that it is better for the user's experience.
yeah,
However, for security, I'm not going to do that. Because if I am trying
that
to
makes sense.
find, in fact, Alex taught me this one here in the call. If I am trying to find, let's say I'm making a bot to scrape everybody's email on here, right? All I have to do is write a bot that puts in a random email, you know, blah at gmail.com, Doesn't matter what the password is. Now it's going to tell me incorrect password. And from that, I can derive at the conclusion that it is, oh, this is just not, or this is an email in their system. So I can find them. Whether it be I'm going to mass email these people, whether it means I'm going to try and brute force my way. Okay, now that I know this is a real email, I'm going to try random passwords and keep trying to get in. Okay. This is a very small, but actually pretty effective way of preventing people just one more layer of friction and security. It's actually a big one that I do recommend. Everyone's like, no, like this one's better. Like you are right. It is better for the user's experience, but it is worse for the security of the site, which I'm a little more worried about the security than I am for that. But regardless, not the end of the world, but it is, in my opinion, a better, safer way to handle your login functionality. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and on that same topic, just another unhappy path, like in the same security realm,
Mhm.
on the register page, obviously you cannot register two users with the same email, no matter what. Uh, that is an unavoidable kind of dark pattern that people can take advantage of when trying to figure out which emails are registered on your server. A simple fix there is to cap the amount of times you can attempt to register within like a 30-minute or 1 hour
Yes.
period.
Which
So
is,
like,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm glad you said that. It was literally the next thing I was going to say. Yeah, rate limiting is a great way to do it. We actually did a whole other talk about how I had 58,814 users made on my website over a 5.5 hour span. They were just spamming our site. This is a site that me and Alex worked on together. And like I woke up, I was looking at it. Like at first I was like, oh no. Then I was like, this is sick. Like I've never dealt with this. We didn't have any users on the site yet, but it was live. So I was like, oh, like, well, I can fix it, but what the heck happened here? Went down like for probably 5 hours just researching why do people do like what benefit do these people get from making these bots and spamming my website? It was fascinating. So yes, Alex is completely right. It is unavoidable. So you handle that with rate limiting. That's a little more out of your wheelhouse. But if you know that rate limiting is involved in this, I would 100% either just try to log in, log in, log in. But if I know that the rate limiting is set up to where only a bot could sit there and spam log in that quick, I'd route a bot for it, right? You can easily ask ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, to make you a little bot that will just run and just spam the login, right? But there's so many different things about QA that without some development knowledge, you would never know to test. You would never know that that was the possibility. There's so many times I found bugs that if a normal user looked at it and go, what the heck, why isn't that working? That I can look at because of my development background and my knowledge in it and say, man, that actually makes sense because they're storing it this way. I'm willing to bet that this and this didn't connect right or something because I know how the data and how the code is more than likely working. The next thing here is it's white box and black box testing, and you will actually have to forgive me. I believe that white box testing is with knowledge of the code base, and then black box testing is without knowledge of the code base. If one of you guys wants to look that up and confirm for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. I don't need to know the name of them to know how to do it correctly, but the reason why I bring this up is sometimes I don't really look at white box and black box testing as knowledge of my code base, but rather business knowledge and knowledge of anything about the app whatsoever. Anything about the code, anything about the client, anything about the client's needs. The only thing that I will ask when I first start on a project is, hey, what is the bare minimum that somebody will know coming into this project? Is this a wide open app for the world? Is this something that is just, I randomly Google something and land on it? Is this something that I end up finding embedded in another site? Is this something that I find only internally at your company? Where am I going to find this in the wild? If the answer is you are only going to see this within some big healthcare company's internal system, then I want to make sure that I understand, at least to a certain degree, how much knowledge that person is going to have when they first start in the app. Again, this is like me first starting on a team. And the reason why is I'll jump into a team and usually team leads are really excited to be like, hey, like, here is what we've done, here's what's happening, and I'll stop them and I'll go, hey, tell me where I'm gonna find this. So they go, this is an app you can download from the App Store. I go, great. It's open to anyone. They say, great. I was like, don't tell me anything at all about this app. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because I don't want to know all of that testing it. I want to do black box. I believe one of you guys, you're right, cool. I want to start with black box testing. I do not want to know anything about this application. The reason being is because if I can step into the shoes of someone who has never touched this app and has no earthly idea, then I can more understand where they're going to have friction points and be discouraged on the app. So if I end up hopping on there and seeing that there is some weird button that has, I don't know, maybe it says delivery on there, but really it should say buy, I don't know, something random. It could be anything. I don't have a good example of mind. That's weird. That's jarring if the user doesn't understand it. Now, you working on the code base every single day, who understands every bit of internal lingo and jargon that you and the team use to build the app and interact with it, yeah, you're going to understand because you are completely white box testing this entire thing. You are not just looking at this is how the user is going to feel walking into this. So that's like a really good perspective. And I have actually helped a lot of teams with that exact perspective by doing that. Then I'm going to go, there's gray box texting, which is just somewhere in the middle, right? It's a definitely a spectrum. I'm going to go more into asking questions. I'm going to test the app as thoroughly as I can in the black box. And then from there, I'm going to jump into, okay, what exactly is this? I'm going to start asking questions that I didn't get answered myself being on the app. And then I'm going to talk back to my team lead and go, hey, I did the deep dive on the app. I found this and this. What I have no idea what these things are. Please explain. And if he's explaining it to me and I ask him, hey, is there any way that a normal user is going to know that, like without you telling them? And he's like, no. And I'm like, this needs to be fixed. That's a problem. Okay. I am 100% out of the realm of QA at this point, in my opinion. Sometimes, right? Sometimes UX can be considered, but I definitely take pride in making sure that people have a good experience on these apps and on these websites. So I'm going to make sure that this is included in my talk. From there, I'm going to go further and further and understand the app and go deeper and deeper and deeper into this white box and understand everything that's happening. Oh, well, that bug happens because this thing, or yeah, we're using whatever tool setup. I'm going to understand more and more about it, and then I can go more and more deep. But it is 100% important for you to be able to take yourself out of your shoes. It takes an open-minded person to do QA. If you cannot take yourself out of your shoes and imagine what it's like to be that person, you cannot do QA, plain and simple. That's just, and I see a lot of people who like, I think QA, I enjoy it. I find it very easy because I'm good at it. But a lot of people are like, I don't know how you do it. But they're like 10 times the developer that I am. And that's okay. We all have our strengths and skill sets, but you have to be able to take yourself out of your shoes and learn what exactly is happening in this user's head as they are using this app for the first time or even the fifth time, right? Oh, I get a notification every single time I log in. That's super annoying. Take that out. I've logged in 8 times today. Take it out. That's really frustrating. It's annoying. It's not fun. Any questions so far? I've kind of rambled here for a minute. We're 30 minutes in. I want to make sure I cover anything that you may have, Giovanni, because I know this whole thing was more so for you.
I was going to ask like what kind of questions would you ask in gray boxing, but you already answered that.
You ever gotten to the pool? There's those stairs that take you deeper and deeper. It's that.
Yeah.
I want to take one step and I want to feel around that place for as long as I can to take in the perspective from that place as much as possible. And then I'm going to take another step and I'm going to live in that step for a little bit. And then I'm going to step again and I'm going to step again. It's kind of like watching a TV show or like even playing a game is an even better example. For example, I played something with some buddies a while back and one of them doesn't want to be spoiled on anything. He doesn't want anyone to tell him what's happening. He wants to live in that black box forever for as long as he can because that's what's fun for him. But then there's another guy who loves to just like, hey man, I don't really care, tell me. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm like, I didn't really want to know that. Like that would have been cool to just find out on my own and like feel that excitement for the first time as a user. I'm not super picky about it, but yeah, it's not really so much the story, but like the mechanics of the game, like, oh, when you get to this level, you can do this and this, right? So I'm trying to hold myself to one area as long as possible until I open the gates to the next one and then look at the world from that perspective. Some other things here that we can just kind of look at, like just some random examples. We don't have to go into a ton of this, but if I were QA and I was interviewing someone, probably the same thing. Like the first thing I would tell someone is, "Hey, test this. Tell me what you would test." Okay. And have them run through it, right? You can definitely do the rate limiting, sit there and log in, log out, right? Put in a password. Can I put this password a million times? I can't really tell because okay, so it looks like it's the same length as the email. It's long. It's not like, oh my gosh, I can go on forever long. Either way, not the greatest UI there. There's so many different routes we can go with this, right? I'm blanking a little bit because I've got other notes and everything in my mind, but yeah, this is pretty much the gist. Is where do I go from here? What else could possibly break? What else, if I hit this and go back to log in, I don't know. I'd go down a list, right? There's so many different things that you could do here. Let's talk about some documentation. Documentation could take place in a few different ways. On the team I'm on currently, the client is wanting more insight to what's happening on our side. So I'm basically taking pre-testing notes. I personally am not a massive fan of this, and I'll explain what it is in a minute and why. But I do see some benefit in it for some clients. There are other clients who, as soon as you get the ticket, it's the first time you're seeing it, and you're never looking at it again, right? Or sorry, you've never seen it before in your life. Like it's the first time, and you're jumping in and testing it. So I actually get tickets on this one team before they go to the developers. And while they are with the developer, or sorry, before they get to the developer, I will end up going in and writing notes on everything possible about that ticket that I can think of and test. So I'm going to show things like, hey, we're making a login implementation. I'm going to go through and cleanly and shortly list everything I'm going to test. I'm not going to say, okay, so I'm going to test this email and then I'm going to put in all the email stuff again, but I'm going to be very thorough, but as short and to the point as possible with what I am going to test. And then go in later on once it gets past the developer. And then once it gets back to me, I have the same notes that I had before about that ticket and I can test it after they're done. And everyone along the way knew what I was going to test before I even tested it. Alex, Giovanni, either of you, feel free to answer. Anyone, why do I not like this so much? There is some value in it, but why would I not like this so much? What are some reasons?
Oh,
Yeah, we can hear you, man.
uh,
What's up?
awesome. I would assume it's just not as like hands-on, in my opinion. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like
No,
it's
yeah, you nailed it right on the head. It's not, I cannot see every problem in your app until I get my hands dirty in it. I need to stick my hands in the mud and move them around and pick it up and mold it in this. Like, I need to get dirty with your app. I need to get intimate with it and jump in. I need to use it. Otherwise, there is no, it's very hard to have that insight to completely jump in and put every note of everything I'm going to test before I test it. Now, do I do it? Yes. Does it give better communication to the rest of my team? Yes. Is it absolutely necessary? If the team is needing it for one reason or another, there are some that I can list, but most of the time, I would say it's not that necessary. Then I'm more than happy to. But overall, if I am just running through tickets, I will actually give pushback on this process if I'm like overwhelmed and have too much going on because it's more time out of my day when if it's just to communicate with everybody else and it's not going to make that much of an impact for everybody else, I'll give pushback. Usually, at least on my teams, again, I'm in the wild west of teams. I'm just constantly being thrown to different teams. If they ask me, "Hey, would this be something helpful?" and I always tell them, "I don't believe so. Why do you think it might be?" I'm asking good questions to ensure that I know what issue they're running into. Because if I just say, "No, I don't think so," instead I can say, "No, I personally don't believe so, but why do you think it would help?" And then they can tell me through that, they're going to tell me what issues they're having and I can actually come up with a solution to that. Now, they may tell me, and I go, actually, this would help. Let's do it. But overall, it's about asking good questions and understanding what the team as a whole is having issues with. And and going from there, right? As a new QA, you are like manual testing like this is going to be a lot of what you're doing. Most teams, from what I've seen, do not do the pre-testing rundown, writing down every test and test case and whatnot. Like again, I just don't do a lot of it because I haven't seen a lot of value, and personally, I don't think the teams that I've been on have seen a lot of value. But the notes that I add after I've tested are thorough. They are, again, they're clean to the point. I'm not writing a novel for every little thing. I think this and this, blah, blah, blah. Let me pull up some notes here. We're going to write. So we'll start here. I would have, let's say it's for that login, right? And let's say, I mean, we can log in, we can find what we have. You'd have a ticket with login functionality. That's like maybe the title. And then you'd have the AC, which is the acceptance criteria, which is talking about user logs in equals user be happy. Obviously, you would have much more in-depth notes on how your user will be logging in. However, I'm going to be down here looking at my testing notes. Now, sometimes testing notes are here at the bottom, sometimes they're off to the side. I've had some teams who just don't want any testing notes whatsoever. Totally fine. Some teams, I only write testing notes for the things that I found that were wrong. So I might come in here and say, for my testing notes, I would put, if I have a ton of bugs on one feature, I would write this differently. But just for one bug, let's say for the bug that we found here with, oh, I can just put in way too many. I would fields allow X characters. And I'd put something along the lines of when filling out the login page, email, and password fields allow for X amount of characters. The way I'm going to find X, I actually always just come in and I will fill this out as far as I can. I will literally paste, 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 paste until I know for a fact it's at the end. I'll copy the whole thing. I go to Google, I type in character counter, and likely it's somewhere around like 500 or something. And after I copy this, put it in there, it will tell me the exact amount of characters that are in there. And I can put that number here. So let's say 500. I don't need to put this, but I've already been clear here. I would even put this, and can I bold in notes? Is that a thing? I'd bold it because I want them to see the important parts. Even though this like doesn't seem like a big deal, I'm just trying to make it as easy to read as possible because I want this dev to move quick. I want him to be able to move and go and just be done. So this would usually be like your just description or yeah, reproduce whatever. I'm gonna say navigate to, so I could just say login page here, or I can do the dev a solid because if I'm on a huge app, he's gonna have to go in and just navigate to the login page. I want him to be as quick and easy. So I would put my login here, and I use this system. Some people really like this. Some people have seen, but I personally, I love this. I've yet to have a dev complain to me about this in like 3 years. I use this on every single tick I write because it shows a very clear symbol of what is moving to the next step. And I'm very clear and very short on every step. So navigate to this page, arrow, fill out the login field, arrow, fill out the password field, and then like, I don't know, fields allow X characters. Now, obviously, I would not be stopping here with my testing, such as we did. We just put this in. What happens if we actually try to log in? So, okay, so it actually caught whether or not it was or whether or not it was an actual email. That's another thing we could test is if we just put in random characters and no actual email. But let's say we do that. Just put an at here and come all the way over here and put a dot. Oh, so no, okay. There's something in here that I put. I can't remember what, but let's just say we do this at gmail.com. Then grab this guy. Paste, 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 paste. So it still says invalid credentials. It may say something different. It may break this. It may just screw up your homepage. It could do anything, right? Maybe it actually goes and stores it in the database or something, which is another thing we could test after running this. Something like it could do anything. You have no idea what that dev did. You have no idea if they just vibe coded the whole thing. You have no earthly idea what this person did to create this feature for you. So having this as clear, like, oh, like after this, I wouldn't just put fill out X characters. I'd put something like uh hit submit, page breaks doing X thing. Here is the error from my console, or my um my Chrome tools. Here's what I found. Right? Does this kind of make sense? This is usually the structure of my tickets that I will follow. I've seen a lot of people who argue they need a lot more. I'm trying to keep this as clean and concise for this developer as absolute possible. I do not want it to be a cluster for him to figure out what I even did. Right? This is very easy to read. He can say, I'm going to navigate here. Okay. He navigates. I can fill out the login field. Okay. I can fill out the password field. Okay. And he can follow it from there. I'm trying to be as short, sweet, and to the point as absolutely possible. Okay. Any other questions? I've rambled here for another 15 minutes. I want to make sure I'm not too far ahead of you.
I did just want to add a kind of catch-all technique I use when completing or when filling out QA tickets for the dev is screen recording
Yes.
exactly what's wrong. I
Yep.
mean, you can even, if you want to be pedantic with it, you can screen record like the console logs while you're using the app and stuff. And I mean, if you have a little editing program, a 30-second clip immediately shifts the entire workload with irrefutable proof back to the dev and away from you. So that's an extreme
Yes.
case. You don't always have to do that, but
I'm almost baffled that I didn't even bring that up. Yes, 100%. Landon, go ahead, buddy.
I was gonna say, so when it comes to what Alex brought up about like screen recording, what specific portions of like your test notes would that like
What would it
qualify
fall
for?
under? I would put it
Yeah,
under just
or
description. I mean,
okay.
really, it depends, right? Almost everything I'm going to tell you in QA is it just depends. Just like in development,
Hmm.
it just depends, right?
Okay.
Is Docker best for everything? It depends. It depends on what you're doing, right? Um, I will say one thing to what Alex said because it's such a good point. Is it best to do recording on every single ticket? I would say most, especially the really complicated ones. If you're walking through more than like three, 3 to 5 steps here, I'd probably record it. Now, granted, these are pretty simple steps, but if it's even somewhat difficult to replicate, record it. Sometimes recording it and having them watch a video takes more time from that developer than it does for them to just look at a screenshot. Almost always, I include a screenshot, 100%, which would just be, for here, I would just show the end result of what I did. Or maybe I just show one or two screenshots to show along the way. Like, what does this developer need to see at a glance to move quick? That's my job. I want to deliver to him on a silver platter like a freaking king. Right? But that's a great point. Is it what Alex said there is not necessarily what like, oh, it's a good way to do it 110%. But the biggest thing he said there was it gets it off you. I've had people who are like, why didn't you catch this? And I'm like, some people don't understand that in QA, you're not going to catch every single little bug. It's not going to happen. It's just not. Sometimes the client's going to find them. Sometimes Susie using the app to take a picture or something found it and recorded it to you guys on your website. Sometimes you find it. Most of the time, I hope you find it. But you're not going to catch every single little app or every single little bug. And it's okay that you don't, but it's not okay that you're missing a ton of them, right? So, does that make sense, Landon?
Yes, yes, that makes sense to me.
For
Thank you.
sure. Giovanni, what you got, man?
Are there any stupid tests? Like, have you ever had a developer a developer say to you like, "Oh, that's who's gonna add in their email 5 times into the email address bar," like things like
I
that.
I think developers know better than at least experienced developers know better than anybody that your users are going to do stupid crap
Yeah,
because they have probably maybe thought that at some point if no one's going to do that and then come back and been like, who logged this bug? And the client was like, oh, I don't know, some user found it. And then they're just mad because Susie down the street was using the app and found this bug that he never thought anybody would do. Your users will 100%, if it can go wrong, I promise you it will go wrong. If you have thousands of people on your app, maybe somebody drops their phone and actually clicks a button. What if anything could happen? Anything at all could happen on that app, and you should be prepared for that. That is your job to check any and all. You want to step into the dude who knows the app. You want to step into the dude's shoes that is like me who uses a an app or website and I'm like, this would be kind of funny if this broke. Let me see if me doing this breaks it. There are so many times, there's even on Google's apps, I've looked this up and been like, oh, yep, that broke. Like 100%. It will happen. Sometimes I'm just a jerk about it. I'm like, I wonder if they considered this. Maybe their QA didn't do their job. I don't know. Andy, what do you got?
I was just gonna say I would say the only time I found like where a developer is like, hey man, really would be you have to think about what you're testing. So if you're testing something that's like a multi-architecture kind of setup where things are in like mini services, if you're hitting an API endpoint and that API is pretty developed and pretty thought out for, there's probably a team that tested rate limiting on that endpoint, right? Because if the team didn't create that endpoint, the endpoint should have been tested already. So like if you were to go and create like an automation test that does like SQL injection and drops the database, you might be going way overboard, right? But so you have to kind of like look at it and say, okay, well, what's in scope of the card that I'm
Yep.
working on, and what do I need to actually test, and what is the proper like honestly, like what's the happy path, right?
Right.
You test that.
You are touching on exactly what we talked
Yeah,
about before you joined, Andy,
yeah,
was
yeah,
we didn't really talk about scope, which I wanted to jump into next, but you're 100% right. Is like when is it right to be very nitpicky? And we talked about different clients and how some clients want to have that like super nitpicky, like it needs to be down to the pixel of the diagram we gave you. And there's so much like, yeah, as long as it's in the ballpark, we're good, right? Like
yeah.
yeah, it totally depends. But the one thing that Andy said here that is a huge point is what is the scope of the ticket? And this is a very gray line. It is a very blurred line that is hard to figure out sometimes depending on the ticket. For example, if the ticket just says user should be able to log in with email and password, and that's all it says, but then I try to put in a really, 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 really long one, technically it wasn't mentioned in the AC. So is it right to include it in the ticket? My personal preference is I will include it in the ticket. I will tag whoever it is that I need to look at it, usually my product manager or whatever, and stand up. I'm like, hey man, I've got three of these. I sent you a link to them in Slack. So he has all three links just all together. And I say, take a look at those and just let me make sure that like this isn't going to upset the client. Really and truly, I only do that with him because our client is somewhat annoyed right now with certain things. And so we're walking on eggshells a little bit. And I want to make sure that this bug that I found is not something that's been discussed and that they have specifically asked for, or are they going to get pissed off about this, right? Like I have to read I have to read the room. I have to see the temperature of the client and a number of other things. How picky do they want to be in a number of other things? Alex, what do you got, man?
Yeah, I just wanted to say on that, Giovanni, it really does depend what kind of QA testing you're doing. Like
Yes.
this fuel injection thing is more of like unit testing. Are you writing tests for people's code? There's regression testing, which is also more testing code. A lot of the QA you're going to run into is literally quality assurance. Like,
Yep.
is this application horrible? And if it is, big or small, they want to know why. And oftentimes you're going to be using like Jira or some sort of ticketing program that lets you set like essentially a threat level on your card. So you can have like these are drastic things, for sure pay attention to them. And then you can have some where it's like, if you're bored, take a look at this. Don't really read too much into this ticket. So they're definitely paying you to be nitpicky, but not to overstep your bounds into like designing architecture and security principles.
Right. Like you don't want to like I'll tell them in the ticket, hey, this is a bug that I found, or this is very jarring. So even if the client's like, I don't want to know about that, like I don't want to be nitpicky, I don't want you to be nitpicking. I'm like, great. I'm still gonna go document it somewhere. It's gonna be at the bottom of that ticket. Hey, FYI, client said they were okay with this. Move on. Because if the client comes back down the road and says, "Oh, you guys didn't deliver this. We're upset about this," they're gonna look for any reason to pit on you, like on the client. If maybe you just have a toxic client, maybe somebody's going back. You never know. You never know. So when my job comes to me and goes, "Hey, the client's really upset, and they're saying they need this and this from QA. Did you document that?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. Here you go. Go look at all of the tickets. It's down at the bottom." Oh, they're upset about that. Yeah, let me look through the tickets. I can find the ticket where I documented that exact thing, and I can tell you the day in which what meeting they said that they were okay with that one thing, right? It's not about like, oh no, haha, client, I got you, right? But it's about covering your own butt and making sure that you're not getting in a bad spot, right? How does one do automated testing and all these things? If you can't do this part of the job, you cannot do the rest. You can't. It all starts here. You do not write automated tests until after you have manually tested it. Because if I write an automated test for something and then it breaks or it's just not a good workflow, and then the dev goes through and rewrites all the code for it, well, guess what? You get to rewrite your entire test. It's a waste of time. You have to thoroughly test it first, ensure that it is working in the current state that it exists in, and then write your tests. Does that make sense? So we can do a
Perfect.
whole, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, that was perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
made
you
perfect sense.
have you have to do manual first. And this is an automated database, like everything. This is everything. Transforming data from one database to another, everything. Like this is not just, oh, let me click through the app and make it look pretty, right? This is everything, and every bit of QA is it's just silly to automate stuff. You may automate tests to go back and recheck stuff later or whatever, but again, all that you're only going to build that until after you've manually tested, right? Um, yeah, great insight, both Alex and Andy. That's awesome.
How long should you take on a test? Yeah, like on a test, um, on average a day.
It
Like
depends.
after your day, should it be like an hour? Should it be like 30 minutes? Should it be like your whole day? What
It
does that
just
look like?
depends. It just depends. Like you should be getting
Okay.
quicker with time, but if I get a ticket that is just miles long, no ticket should be miles long.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, maybe each point in it is just they change the color. Like, maybe there's 50 points in that ticket, but every single point in the ticket is, oh, all he did was changed a color of a button on each page. I mean, that's not going to take me more than like 20 minutes to go through all 50 pages and make sure that they're all done, right? But
Mhm.
or it's a mile long of bullet points, and every bullet point is, oh, I have to make sure that I am walking through every single little detail of this. I have to make pre-existing data, for example, the Facebook and friend thing that we did earlier. I have to make existing data to test this one thing. That is one of the biggest differences in a junior QA and like a senior QA is, can you get it done quickly, and can you get it done at at the highest level, and can you document it effectively, right? Like, but really, like, how long is it going to take you to test this effectively? What is effective testing? And that's why QA is such a weird thing, is because there's so much about it that is up to interpretation. Some people say, no, like, you're QA, why are you giving me UI notes? I'm like, dude, this is a jarring experience. If you're not okay with it, that's fine, but I am going to bring it up to our project lead. I'm not trying to be hostile, I'm not trying to be mean, but I am going to bring it up to our project lead because I want to make sure that this isn't going to upset the client, right? I want to deliver the best possible product to my client by the end of the day. What is that going to take, right? So it takes as long as it takes to test something. but you should be able to, with at least a little bit of experience, to figure out how long something will take you to test, right? It just depends. It really, like this login thing, 20 minutes max for me, right? I mean, I don't know, like it depends. It just depends. What kind of users are there? Are there different like do I have 9 different user types in here? Do I just have this? I don't know. It really just depends. Yeah, Andy said here, time comes down to your team's velocity and how they score as a whole. Yeah, I mean, it just if I'm on a team and they're like go 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 go, we only have a week. I am not going to spend a ton of time on all of these edge cases. I'm just not. I will do what I deem as very important on each ticket. But if we have to get this done by the end of the week, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on every single little detail. I literally cannot. It is not possible. So the client has me for a week. They want it done in a week and launched and tested. Great. But I'm going to make sure that I communicated, hey, this is not going to be as effectively tested as you want. I can continue to test after that deadline. But for now, I'm mostly doing happy path testing, right? With a little bit of veering out. And sometimes, really, I'm not going to veer out on how common would this be, but how severe is it, right? Like there's also weight to juggle there. So it could be anything. It really could be anything. It's going to depend on your client, your team. It all depends. There is no solid answer in QA on just about anything you do. It all depends. So, yeah. The end. That's my story.
Thank you, Preston.
Yeah, man. No, this is cool. We'll do another one of these. We can do it in a week or two. Just about like what it looks like to transition this mindset of manual QA to more of like an automated suite or something like that. I believe Andy has done some. I'm sure Alex has probably touched some automated testing at some point or another in some way. Uh, so yeah, I mean, we could definitely get their insight too. I've done mostly in Cypress and a few other small things, but mostly Cypress. So that's about it for me though. Um, yeah, Andy probably knows a lot more about automated testing than I do. So shoot, we can pick his brain on it. But cool. You if you guys don't have any questions, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I will see you another time.